Hi, Jane. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's great that we're finally meeting.
After how many years?
I think it's like 4 or 5
yeah.
years. So for context for people listening, we got introduced about 4 or 5 years ago by a mutual friend.
So we've been pen pals?
Exactly, yeah, just over email, social media, and you're based in Australia, if you couldn't hear from your voice. And
How you going?
Yeah, and I'm from London, but I live in New York, so we're here today in New York. You happen to be here for 3-4 weeks, escaping the Australian summer to be here.
It's terrible.
Yeah. So you're here, and what was it? It was minus 15 degrees Celsius or 20 degrees Fahrenheit here. So you've been having a good time, it looks like. And I want to say we're here today at Mouth Media Network, our friends, and they are being gracious enough to let us record here today. So thanks to those guys. What I wanted to do today is really just kick off by framing, who you are, why we're having this conversation, and your company Showpo is a huge success story in Australia, and you're a $30 million. Well, maybe what's the number now? You're an e-commerce company, and your revenue has grown since the last time.
We've been having almost 100% growth year on year for the last year, so we're on 60 million at the moment.
That's crazy.
Exciting.
And I think you've got a target of 100 million in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's 100 by 2020, but we'll probably get there.
Wow.
Not in I feel like there'll be an announcement in a few months. So
okay, wow. All right, cool. 60 million. So that's a new number. You haven't shared that properly yet.
Just like in the US, I think.
Okay, cool. And then, so for people that aren't aware of Showpo, because it's not known everywhere, even though you're selling in many countries, could you just give a high level of what you guys do?
Yeah, who the hell is this girl? Okay, so Showpo is an online fashion store. We sell to women 16 to 36 primarily. And I guess we started off being like a fast fashion retailer, but now half our stuff we design ourselves, and I think that's where one of our big points of differentiation. We just have, sometimes people talk about what makes you you, and then people talk about all these factors around the product, but ultimately the product is at the crux of it. And so I guess what's exciting about us is the fact that we've been completely self-funded this whole time. There's no external investment. And I know, I feel like I'm in America and everyone just wants to hear about the investment story.
Yeah.
But it's God, I don't have some rich fat cat telling me what to do. I think that's more exciting than anything.
No, well, it's interesting because we'll dig into that a little bit later around why you've chosen to not raise money. And on the show, I've had a couple of people that have raised a bunch of money and some people that have been completely bootstrapped like yourself. And I think we are moving to a point where I'm meeting a lot more founders who are just saying they don't want to raise money. And sometimes you might need it.
Yeah, might have to. And
if you're doing
Absolutely. And also, sorry.
No, go for it, please.
Well, I just think it'd be stupid not to raise money depending on the market. If it's, especially in winner takes all markets, or if you have an innovative product that might, that has an expiry, well, you want to be first to market, and, there is an opportunity cost in not getting investment. But there isn't so much in what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's great. And so you're a fast fashion e-commerce business. So you sell your own brand essentially, or you guys are designing your own clothes and selling them on direct to consumer on your website, right? And just again to capture the scale a little bit, you've mentioned the revenue, 60 million. You've got from the research I did, so let me know if this is right. You're selling in 80 countries. Maybe that's gone up.
100.
100. Wow. Yeah. Okay, 100 and. That includes the US, so if you're watching this, it's Showpo, SHOWPO.com, and you'll get redirected to the correct.
Showpo on Insta. And we, the US is actually, so we're selling 40% of our sales are international and 30% of our sales are from the US, which is why I'm here.
That's great. And you also have done an amazing job on social, and it seems like that's really been the backbone of building the business. So you've got, I think, 1.5 million followers on Instagram. Your personal account has even got 165,000 followers on Instagram. So you guys are doing something right, and you've done it without raising money. And today we're going to really dig into, the topic I really want to hone in on is starting an e-commerce business from scratch. It doesn't have to be fashion related. It's just e-commerce is what you're based on, and doing it without raising money, because I think that's a very specific way of doing things versus having to raise a bunch of money, giving equity away, and you've done it all organically. So I really do want to just dig into that today. The other thing I did want to mention, and we're going to kind of go into your story a little bit deeper, is our mutual friend Kieran Doyle, who you've been friends with for some time, and he was one of my best friends from Dublin when we both lived there working at Google in 2010. I said to him, look, man, like, she's done a bunch of interviews and I've listened to them, but what's something that other people might not know? 'Cause, you know, and don't worry, there's nothing. And I said, like, what would you want to know about her? And he said, well, she's done such a great job of, you know, exemplifying the work hard, play hard. You know, and a lot of people say they do that, but I see your Instagram and I see you're traveling, you're enjoying yourself, you've created this amazing atmosphere within the office. It seems like you're working fairly normal hours, you're not doing anything too crazy. And I really love that, you know, in a world where there's someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, who's been on the show here, who is really talking all about hard work. And that's great, and I'm sure you work hard, but it seems to me that you've also been working really smart, and like you've probably found a lot of focus in the things that are most important. So I do want to dig into that a little bit later as well.
It's funny, I actually was listening to another podcast and they were talking about this term called hustle porn, where it's like, right? Like, and everyone, it's all about like, you know, you got to work really hard. And honestly, like growing up, you know, I'm from China, where it's just all about hard work. And then, you know, was very academic. I don't think we're going to get into it now.
No, let's go for it.
Okay. And so, and then so it's all about working hard, not smart, I think. And so I kind of had, you know, grew up with that mentality. Like, I kind of used to feel guilty not work. Like, if there's always something else you could do, like, you kind of feel bad not doing it. But I guess when I started delegating, I mean, my personal Instagram is the lazy CEO. And I think underlying that is work smarter, not harder, or both if you can, you know. But it's not, I think, to be sustainable, you kind of want to not burn yourself out. And I think it's all about just like, honestly, finding great people that you can trust, because you know, we have a team of 150.
Wow.
So it's just like, there's no way I can be like yes, like, you know, if there's orders to be packed, like I used to be that person that's like, go and pack the orders yourself and blah, blah, blah. If there's always something that can be done, but I think you need to just like be a bit more rational and think bigger. I think thinking big is the thing that underlines all of this. Yeah,
that's great. And I know I've heard some stories which we'll dig into in a little bit about you were working from your parents' garage for a long time, which is such a cliche, but like a lot of people do start companies in garages. It's pretty cool. And I thought that was just in Silicon Valley, but you did it in Australia. So, but before we fast forward to that, it would be cool just to dig into a little bit of how you landed in Australia in the first place. I think you were born in China, right?
Yeah.
And your parents are from there. And so, take me back to moving from China to Australia. What was that like, and what was your kind of home like when you landed in Australia?
Yeah, so I moved to Australia when I was 8 with my parents. I'm an only child, so they kind of, you know, want to put all their eggs in the Jane basket, I guess. And so they kind of, it's like the immigrant dream. They want you to have like a more opportunities and a better life. And for them, that means financial and job security. And so when we moved to Australia, it took 5 years to even move to Australia, because we kept trying to come to Australia, America, Canada, New Zealand, just kept getting rejected. And then finally we made it to Australia. And then from there, it was all about, like a lot of like guilt from the parents, because they left they left family, friends, and their great jobs so that they could move to Australia. And when they moved to Australia, they worked in factories and also in as cleaners, and they always like guilt trip me about that. I don't know how subtle they thought they were being, but anyway, and then so I grew up being very academic. I went to a selective school, high school, which is like a school you go to. Like, you have to do a test to get in. And then, when I left high school, my like exit score was 99 plus, which is really good. So humble brag.
Did anyone ever say to you, where was the other 1%? That's like you only had 0.3 left or something.
I partied in high school, so I'm just pretty happy with it. But no, I'm sorry. This is bit of a humble brag, but also just to give you context of how much, like, you know, academics were important to me. So I ended up doing the business. I did the uni degree that my parents wanted me to do. So accounting and commerce degree, majoring in accounting and finance.
Yeah.
And straight out of high school, I got a job working at KPMG, one of the big 4 accounting firms, as part of their cadetship program.
Yeah.
And so, like,
what's a cadetship? Because I haven't really heard that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
like
very common.
It's like you're doing it while you're at college, university?
So you work full-time and you study part-time.
Okay.
But then you've also got job security as soon as you leave.
Okay.
And so it's because you're with one of the big 4s. It's like a...
Yeah.
It's that... The great thing is I've never, when I was at uni, never had to really worry about my future.
Yeah.
Because... And, you know, everyone's like trying to job hunt, blah, blah, blah. I've always been fine up to that point. You could just relax a little. Yeah. Until that point, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And then so... I guess when I wanted to quit when there was a point where I realized there was a point where I realized I hated what I was doing, and which is crazy because literally I've been working towards this one goal of having a good job.
Do you think that was your goal though, or was it like your parents' goal?
Honestly, like at the time, I genuinely thought that it was mine because I've, you know, it's what happens to a great propaganda artist. That's my mom.
Yeah.
I mean, you just really don't know any better. And I really think in high school, like all through when you're growing up, like you don't know about so many cool jobs. Like, how do you get there? You literally, especially when you're like, I guess, a Chinese immigrant, you're like, okay, you can be a lawyer, doctor. Yeah. There's a pre-selection of jobs that you could possibly go for. Yeah. And I was like such a model Chinese daughter. I played 8th grade piano. Yeah. I, you know, like...
Yeah, I get you.
Wasn't, you know, study... Like, I enjoyed studying. Like, my parents wanted me to get above average. I was like... they never had to check my report cards because I would do better than what they wanted.
Yeah.
And so I was like what do you call it?
Motivated to do it yourself? Yeah.
But I don't understand why because...
That's interesting.
Yeah, I found... God, like... I think back and just find the stuff that I was doing so dry, and how did I not even realize sooner, you know?
Do you think it was just like achievement driven at that age? It was just like, here's a task, go and do it.
What else are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I was bad at sports.
Like, were you quite social? Because I feel like now I see you and you're very outgoing and you're doing all sorts of fun travel and stuff. Were you like that as a young kid?
I think I wanted to be, but like in high school, going to a selective high school, the problem with high school is the person you are when you enter and you're 12, you're kind of stuck being that person when you're 18. You can't just be like reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
Because kids are like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
So I think when I left high school, we have this thing called schoolies, which is like when you party for a week after high school.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that changed
What's
me.
it called? Schoolies. Lease?
The schoolies. Like,
okay.
School, Lies. And then if you go when you're older, you're a toolie. So toolies.
Wow. You guys have the best slang.
It's pretty good. We normally abbreviate everything, so this is quite weird to make it longer.
Yeah.
But and then I think when I started working at KPMG, it was with a new cohort of people, and I really just came out of my shell a lot more. And so, I think like every like change after that, it's not like I'm like suppressing myself and like become a whole different person. But I think I probably wanted to be more social growing up, but didn't have it wasn't like, you know, you're just not that confident with yourself when you're younger. And
so what about the entrepreneurial kind of interest? Because from what I understand, that wasn't something on your mind. It was like, let's be an accountant. I'm going to have a safe job, which, you know, like my background is I'm Pakistani background as well. So very similar immigrant background in the UK. And it was very much about get a safe job, lawyer, doctor, engineer, etc. Though a lot of Indian, Pakistani people do have businesses too, it wasn't as common in my family.
But I think like Chinese people.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just maybe in your family it wasn't like the route they were saying. To take.
I think they're so corporate minded.
Yeah.
But so I guess I was never entrepreneurial. Like we had, even when we had like entrepreneurial school activities, extracurricular activities, I never got involved. Just like never was on my radar. It seems so like, just doesn't seem like a safe option.
Yeah.
It's like, it just seems so risky. Like, who the hell am I to start a business? And, you know, for me in my head, I was like, oh, someone who starts a business has some family money. They're really well connected. They're very outgoing. They're like a hustler, which all of these things I didn't think I was because, like, God, you're not like that person when you're 15 anyway.
So where did that change? Like, it sounds...
This is really bad. So, it's... So when I was at uni, I met this boy. And so...
Well, all great stories start.
Yeah. God. So he's like, this guy, he was an international student from Belgium.
Okay.
And so he was super impressed that I was working at KPMG. And I was like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was like really, because I think when you're in Europe, you know, you kind of, like in Europe, you do your bachelor degree, you do your master's degree, and then you get a job. And to get a job with a big 4 accounting firm was like a big fucking deal. So for me, I'm so glad you told me I could swear. But for me to be in my second year of uni, working, like, he found that impressive, and then he really wanted to start his own business. So talked all about it, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to start your own business?
Yeah,
you can go broke." And I was just like, "Oh my God!"
And you two were dating, right? You were together.
So we started dating, and then, you know, he kind of got in my head about the whole starting a business thing, and then he's already, you know, being from Europe, traveled to so many countries. At this point, I've been to like Singapore, China, and Thailand.
At that time when you first met, okay.
And so nothing. And so I was just like, wow, like traveling sounds, you know, even actually before I met him, I was like, just because we were like pretty poor-ish, I guess. So my family. And so, you know, traveling just seemed also kind of like, just seems
unattainable,
very... unattainable. So I was just like, whatever. Like,
I think that's an interesting thing because we were quite lucky as a kid. We weren't like super rich, but we would go on these family holidays, and they were fairly inexpensive in hindsight. But my parents always really wanted us to go and travel and see the world in that way. But it is interesting, especially moving to the States, because I find, you know, people do travel here, but it costs so much more often because people will book like a flight separately, and then like the hotels complete separately, and then they're like a lot more expensive, and people here don't take as much time off. So, you know, because most people get 2 to 3 weeks off. So because of that, there's just not as much of a culture. So I think a lot of people, when I moved there and they said, oh, you traveled to all these countries. And I was like, yeah, I can travel most of the time for less than it cost me to live in New York. Like most of the time, I went once for 3 weeks to Asia, and I rented out my place in New York for 3 weeks. And I basically made a profit. So it's just like, there are different ways to travel, I think. But sorry to get off track there. But so he kind of opened up your eyes to travel and
starting a
planted
business.
the seed.
So we went out for like 2 years, and then I was like, oh my God, I want to go traveling. I'm going to go on exchange. So I decided to go on exchange to Sweden, broke up with him.
Oh, wow.
And then so so he opened my eyes up to traveling and starting a business. And then I come back, broke up with him, have traveled. Like, I've been to like almost 60 countries now. That's like, crazy, I love traveling. And
so
then,
he helped plant that seed, though.
And then now I've started, and then I came back and started a business. So, I mean, so like he was kind of like the catalyst for all that change. I mean, so that's kind of God. It's not that... And like sometimes I'm like in this women's events, like just trying to inspire girls. Like, I fell in love with this guy, and then started a business. But hey, I just think it goes to show there's no proper way to. Yeah,
completely. So he planted his seed, but then let's fast forward a little bit to you actually starting the first business. So you know, you were already working at KPMG by this point. Sounds like you weren't loving your time.
Yeah. So I came back from. So just actually, I swapped. So this is around like 2007. Like this is before the global financial crisis, and corporate finance was like the sexy area to be in. And so I thought that, and everyone was trying to get into finance, kind of why. And so I decided to go work in corporate finance at Ernst & Young, another big 4 accounting firm, into what I thought and was told was the sexy division of an accounting firm. But I soon learned that there's no such thing as a sexy division of an accounting firm. Anyway, so when I came back, I was working there, and it was just like so much more boring and hard, and like finance, studying finance compared to like it in practice is so different. Like I just genuinely didn't understand what I was doing. Like I was just felt like I was walking on eggshells the whole time at work because like they kept telling me to sense check my work because I kept making mistakes.
Okay.
But like, how do you sense check when you don't know what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, like
were you quite you didn't want to ask for help, or like were you scared to say I'm not sure I'm doing this right? Did you think you were going to get fired? Like what was going through your head? A combination
of it. Like I'll ask for help. They'll kind of give me some direction. I'll go work on it for 10 minutes and I'm like, oh fuck, another roadblock. I'm like, Jesus, just like trying, I don't know. It was just.
So leaving the job, it sounds like it really was more about you not liking your job more than wanting to do a business. From what I understand.
So when a friend came to me and she said that she asked me if I wanted to start a business with her, which I said yes, kind of jumped at the chance, like that it was exciting to start a business.
Yeah.
So we started this, we started running these pop-up stores in underutilized locations.
Yeah. So that's like in a market or something?
In a bar. So it's kind of like a market, having a market in a bar.
Yeah.
But unlike a traditional market where, you know, you charge a store holder fee, we were running it more like a retailer and taking taking a retailer commission, I guess. And so you take the risk, but there's a bigger upside.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we thought we were so smart because no one else has done this business model. But then I guess one thing we learned was like people weren't doing this business model because it's not that profitable.
Yeah.
And also maybe it is, but we weren't doing it well because again, we didn't have the money, experience or anything, the connections, a lot of things we were doing wrong, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is when my business partner after 6 months came and told me, she asked me she strongly coerced me into quitting my job to work on the business full time. And then so I guess I was quick to jump into it. I just really honestly hated my job and it was a bit of a cop out.
Yeah.
I think I just didn't want to, I think I wanted to quit before they can fire me. And they were starting to make people redundant because now we're in the middle of the global financial crisis.
Okay, just like 08. 07,
what is it? It's
9?
actually 010. I think.
Okay.
I guess it's Australia, and I think it hit finance. This is accounting, so probably hit us a bit later.
Yeah.
So we, at this point in our division, only had 2 redundancies, but it was like coming.
You still feel the fear, right?
Like, they actually made redundant the only 2 people I liked at work. My 2 only managers that I liked. So I was like, okay, I'm out of here because like.
But so just to dig into that a little bit deeper, you said she came to you and had this idea for a business. Right, but for someone who's always thought about having a job and security, like, how comes you didn't think, why don't I try to get another job? Like, it seems like by this point you did want to start a company as well.
No, yeah, I definitely did. I just, because it's the global, like the GFC, you couldn't just go job hunt.
Okay.
Also, I didn't even know what I wanted to do because you can't go. I had no idea.
Because you pretty much signed up for it when you're 18. And what you know at 18 is
and I didn't know enough to go and get a job. Like, I can't just go and be an accountant for this other company. Like, I learned fuck all in this time. Like, I didn't really have, like, skills that I can just uproot and take somewhere else. Yeah. Everyone's always like, oh, your accounting skills must have been really great for Showpo. I'm like, I had Showpo for like over a year before. I remember going to I joined like a startup course kind of thing. And then I got some one-on-one time with the founder of the startup course. He's like, okay, well, show me a P&L. I'm like, I don't have one. Yeah. And he's like, you're an accountant. How do you not have a P&L? I'm like, I kind of just run everything off my credit card, so I know I've got money. I just took money in, money out. But so when she came to me to go work on the business full time. Yeah. It was, I don't know, I kind of like, I guess, blamed her for this ridiculous request. But, you know, it's kind of a blessing in disguise. So I quit my job and started working on this business. It's called Fat Boy Group.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Like, that's ridiculous. With a
Who came up with that name?
Well,
Silent E.
She did. I can't blame her too much because I was like, I went along, like, you know, you can't.
At the time, it feels all right. Like, most of the time.
And the thing is, it's because my nickname, she was like, oh, did you have any nicknames in high school? I'm like, yeah, my friends call me Fat Boy.
They used to call you Fat Boy?
Yeah. She,
Wait, what? Wait. We need to, why did they call you?
I was chubbier, but like, not even that chubby. It wasn't like, Wasn't that chubby, but I don't know. We just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And then she put a silent E in there so we can get the trademark.
Oh wow,
it's annoying.
It's funny though, because a lot of names, like a lot of people don't like the names in hindsight, but like I've said this.
Silent letters are never good.
Yeah, that's definitely not a good thing, especially for like if I say the name, you're going to spell it wrong on the domain. But like I've said this maybe before on here, but just like the name McDonald's or even Pepsi or any of these massive names. Like, to me, you kind of make the name. Like,
that's exactly why. Like, so we used to be called Show Pony. And then when we rebranded to Showpo at the time, that's exactly thinking. I'm like, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like, as a band, like, that's like, is that like, you know? Like, Queen. Yeah. Like, I think there's a group of guys called Queen, you know?
Yeah. I think, though, with naming, I think you can also you can do more harm than good. So if you have a bad name like Fat Boy Enterprise or whatever it is with a silent E, I think maybe that might be on the other side. Whereas most names, I think, you know, can be made pretty good if the brand's good and you tell the right stories and you do a good job of it. But so maybe for the sake of time, we can skip forward ahead a little bit from the first business, because I'm sure you.
Let me jump ahead. Yes, let me wrap this up. Tie it in. Like, where does this fit in? Yeah. Okay, so basically, quit my job, started working on this business, and spent that whole month. My business partner actually went on holidays, but spent that whole month taking photos of everything, and then creating this online website, which stupidly I did it in Wix, which was Flash only back then, which meant it was not mobile compatible. Anyway, I learned that lesson there. And then she comes back from holidays. She's like, you know what? I had to rethink. I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, are you serious?
After all this,
negotiated. Nah, she's like, nah, I've had enough. So all of a sudden, so keep in mind, this is why I was going in about how great I had life. I had the job, I had the business, I had the job that I've always wanted. I had financial security. Everything my parents worked hard for me to get. Had it all, and was, you know, started climbing the corporate ladder pretty early. And then all of a sudden, I had nothing. I was unemployed. All my life savings gone in that first business, and a business failure.
Were you in debt by this point as well?
I was in debt, and it was in the middle of the global financial crisis. So it was about $60,000 in debt.
Wow.
So I was like, crap, what do I do?
And then and just to quickly, is this the one part where your parents didn't know still?
Yeah, so I couldn't, I didn't want to tell my parents I quit my job, because I was like, I'll just tell them when I've succeeded, because there is no way I can tell my parents, like, I threw everything, threw everything away. To start a business, especially when, like, as an only child as well, and they've worked so hard to get me to where I was.
But you were living there with them.
So
you were tiptoeing around.
Yeah, so when I actually started Showpo, for the first 6 months, I was pretending to go to work.
That's crazy.
So I'll paint you a picture. I had to get up early. I'll get up in the morning. And so I'm not a morning person at all. So there's nothing worse for a non-morning person to get up early than to get up early when you're unemployed. So get up early, put on my suit. And the thing is, when I first started working, I used to get so excited about putting on the suit, and now it's just like, oh my God, it's like, I feel like it feels like a clown suit. It's like, oh. Anyway, put on my stupid suit, go have breakfast with my parents, and then it gets worse because my mom works in the city. So I'll have to get the bus into the city with my mom.
That's crazy.
Just to be business as usual. And so I couldn't even peel off. I'm in the city, just like trying to wander around, trying to figure shit out. And then I remember, you know, just like, I was like, oh, I'm going to stop carrying a laptop because it's too fucking heavy and there's no point. So I would just carry around an empty laptop bag.
Oh my God. Then would you come back home or?
So some days I would, but sometimes I try and stay out to, just to try and like, you know, I think, you know, I walk around. At first I'll work in a cafe and be like, you know, I try and be inspired, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I can't afford to keep buying coffees. Went to the library. And then I remember coming home once, I was like, no, I'm coming home. And then I started boiling tea, boiling water. And my dad came home.
Oh, man.
And then so like I left, but then water was hot. So he was like, I was like,
oh, you left the kettle on? Or, oh, man. That's like a hazard.
It
was electric one. Okay.
But still, it's warm. Like, is there a ghost?
Is there a ghost in it?
God. And so I guess the good thing was like, I'm like, okay, well, I can't keep out this facade forever. Like, it kind of really makes you want to have to work hard you can't get comfortable, I guess. So basically this is how it was when I first started Showpo. Like,
Were you just? It sounds like were you? Is it fair to say you were just scared of telling them, and it wasn't at the stage you wanted?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they would say, "What are you doing?" And that's like hard to deal with parents.
Well, the thing is, then every day they're gonna be like, because they don't understand how it works. They'll be like, "Are you making money yet?
Yeah.
Have you made it? Are you successful yet?" Like every day, I could not deal with that. And I remember even when so initially I told them that I was still doing a side business.
Okay.
So like I couldn't hide the fact that I was doing a business, like this stuff in the garage.
Yeah.
I guess. So I was saying that I was doing a side business, and even when we opened a store, which you think it's a good achievement, and then my parents came, I was like, come when I'm working on the weekend, even though I was working every day for this day. But come when I'm working on the weekend, and I'm there like steaming clothes, and they're like, but like we didn't come to Australia just so you can work in retail.
Yeah. Oh,
and I was like, so I'm like,
that's how they saw it, as like you're working.
No, I didn't tell
retail.
them yet.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting, man. I definitely know what you mean. My parents are really supportive in general, but just sometimes there is like a traditional way of thinking, which is really just comes from safety, and that's not anyone's fault. Like when our parents came to the country, they were like, okay, we've got kids, we need to put a roof over their head, we need a safe job, and that makes complete sense.
But they grew up in like probably a place, like a time where like things like this don't happen.
Yeah,
like,
that's true. It's before the internet is what it is today. So, well, that's really interesting. So let's fast forward to Showpo. So how did that actually? I mean, why did you decide on clothes first of all?
Yeah, so everyone's like, do you have a passion for fashion?
Yeah.
No. Like, I love clothes.
Yeah.
But I do love fashion. But when I look at the girls that work for me, like they love fashion. I don't dare enter that league. Like, like they seriously love fashion.
But it sounds like you've got like quite analytical, sound business mind. So like when you were starting in, was it 2010? I mean, it was still fairly early, but Amazon's been around for 10, 12 years or whatever it is. And ASOS was already big.
I remember when I entered the market, I was like, God, like the market's already quite saturated. Is there space for me?
Yeah.
Now I look back, I'm like, oh my God, like timing was one of the best things I had.
Yeah.
Timing was like hard, like.
So what made you pick clothes then? Because was it a conscious decision, or is this something easy for you to get your hands on?
When I decided to when I was like in this rut, like I literally I was like rock bottom when everything kind of fell apart. I was like, okay, either get a job or start a business. That was the only two options. Yeah. And there's no way I could get a job because of the GFC.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll start a business. And I'm like, okay, start a business. I have only accounting, finance experience, or retail experience from the first business, retail fashion experience. And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to like create myself a job in accounting and finance.
Yeah.
The whole point is to get out of that. So literally by default, I had to start a business, and by default, I started business in fashion retail.
Okay.
Because that's literally the only experience I had at this point.
And so you started with another friend of yours, right?
Yeah.
Could you go into that? Like, how did you guys know each other? And
so we just only met, and so I remember going to, at this point, I didn't have any friends that had their own business. And then I had this, except this one guy. And so I remember asking him if I could get, like, I was trying to ask him for help. Just like, what do I do? I'm in the rut.
Yeah.
And secretly, I think I was trying to get a job with him so that I could learn from him. And also, like, I think I honestly think going to work for a startup or a business is a great way to, like, better way to fast track your career than doing corporate.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of just going for that. And he's like, oh, I'll introduce you to this other friend who wants to start a business. And I was like, oh, God, he's palmed me off to some random friend. But when I met her, like, I was like, wow, she's actually really successful. She already had her own business in fashion. And then so when he introduced me to her, and also we hit it off. Like, we got along so well. And then so I think probably on our third time meeting, we, like, got drunk and just over a few glasses of red wine. Yeah. We kind of just decided, we came up with a name and concept for Show Pony.
Wow. Okay.
And then that night when I came home, like, hammered.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to build a website now.
Because, that night.
Yeah. I was like, and I knew not to do, like, build a Flash website.
This time.
And so, because part of it was just like, well, she already had this great business. And
so she already had equivalent. She had Showpo or something separate.
Yeah,
okay.
which is, and I think she wanted to get into retail, which is why.
Okay.
Like online retail in particular. And so that's why she kind of wanted to work with me. because she saw that I was excited about it too.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want her to change her mind. I'm like, oh, maybe it's just like drunk talking.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why don't I just create the website? Once you can see how how competent I am and that I'm a doer. And also that way maybe like she'll be too awkward to say, oh, I wasn't serious. Just feel that. So she's like, oh my gosh, she's already committed.
Yeah.
So then the next day we had the website and we.
What did you use for did you use like Shopify or something like that back then?
It's called Big Cartel.
Okay, yeah.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
It was like $20 a month to host.
Yeah.
Just so cheap. And then you just like get a custom.
They've already got e-commerce stuff set up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you just use some HTML, which is just Google how to use HTML.
Yeah. That's great.
And she introduced us to a supplier who managed to sell us on consignment. So what's exciting about all of this, I think, is all the lessons I didn't realize until maybe like a couple of years after like Showpo started, like after Showpo, that how much the things that I was doing were lessons learned from the failed business, which I wasn't consciously trying to do at the time.
Yeah.
So for example, like, I realized that, even though we did end up having bricks and mortar stores, because I realized how, like the growth that you can achieve with online, maybe not like the full extent of it, but I knew online was the way to go. That's how we kind of started the business online.
Yeah. And
then I realized that, at the time that like the fast fashion, so we had these pop-up stores that had products from like $70 to $350 with these emerging designers. I saw the price point, the $70 price point products just sell like hotcakes.
Yeah.
So I realized like fast fashion is where we wanted to be
in
market. And then also at the time we got PR and it just like hemorrhaged us of the money that we had. And so I kind of started using social media and also like by default because we didn't have money.
Yeah.
So all these mistakes that we made, is kind of what became
built
what
the foundation
Showpo is,
for
built
Showpo.
foundation.
Yeah.
And so that we can, and then also like with the first business, we brought products on consignment because we didn't have any money, which means that you don't have to pay for any of the product until it sells.
Okay.
And so for when with my business partner, we were talking about like getting products on consignment, and she introduced us to a supplier.
Yeah.
And so that's how we kind of were able to bootstrap the business. So your two main expenses when starting an online business, I would say is inventory, which ties up so much of your funds, and then it's marketing. And so the fact that we've alleviated that inventory problem by getting stock and consignment was huge. And so what this meant was like every day I would have to go to the supplier, pick up individual stock to fulfill those orders. But at the time I had, time I had plenty of, money I did not. I was fine to do that.
And so, sorry, just to confirm, this is the consignment for Showpo as well.
For Showpo, that's how we started.
And so do you remember the first sale? Because from that drunken night where you made the website, or the next day, from that time to your first sale, do you remember when that was? And do you remember at that moment what it was?
It was probably between a week or two. So that weekend we ended up doing a photo shoot.
Okay.
And from that photo shoot, which I think there were connections through Fat Boy, through the failed business.
Okay.
We knew models then. So from that photo shoot, and I think it was one of the models' friends that actually bought.
They just shared it on social or something.
Yeah, because they're like, hey, I've been featured on this website.
Yeah.
And so, and it's all through Facebook.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So within a week, you already had the sale.
Yeah.
Do you remember that feeling of selling your first thing? Because we didn't actually talk about this, but I used to have a really small e-commerce business when I was a student.
Oh, what did you sell?
I sold men's clothing, actually, and hats and accessories and stuff. And I just remember the first sale, and it was this feeling, and I'd set up, it was 2004, so it was,
wow.
I remember getting an email, and like someone had bought like a hat for like $8 or something. And I just remember thinking like, wow, I'm like sitting here eating or something, and like someone's bought something. I didn't have to serve them myself, and it was such a like revelation almost. And it was such an amazing feeling. Do you remember like what you felt like at the time? Like, oh, this could actually have some legs to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the first. I have a distinct memory of when I turned on I downloaded the PayPal app at some point.
Yeah.
And then maybe this is like probably more like a few months. This is like maybe 3 months into it.
So you start seeing the notifications.
It was like,
coming in.
I was like, what the hell? And then, you know, and also it's kind of, when you do social media posts as well, like it kind of.
Really? Okay.
Well, not like.
Instantly, but.
Yeah, but you can, it kind of like, and also just during like prime, like shopping time, you know, like. Between like 7
Do you still have an app on your phone that
no,
pings you every time?
But it's in my Facebook Messenger now. I'm like, can you go away?
Oh,
like,
really?
it's actually really annoying. I'm like, I don't know.
Good problem to have. Good problem to have.
Yeah.
I also know that. So that's a really cool story, by the way. Like just coming home and just as the person who's asking you questions here, just a lesson I think for a lot of people, you know, listening to this is. Maybe it was the fact that you were drunk, but maybe you're like this anyway. I actually think you're probably just like this. Like you took action straight away, and like the like tagline of this whole podcast is turning your ideas into action. So like that is a perfect example of, you know, you came home and you were so excited, but instead of like writing a massive plan and saying, oh, I need to be inspired again and I need to think of this big massive SWOT analysis, you're like, oh no, let me just go and work out to make a website, and you just did it. And that's like, I think the constant thing I keep seeing is such an obvious thing, but all the people I've interviewed on here, that is the most common thing. They just take action like constantly every day, and it's taking the first step. Of course you want to think smart, which we'll get to after, but just that was the first you know, like snowball, and there's a snowball effect after that.
I think being a good business person, it's all about being a good problem solver. And so if you can't solve these problems for yourself, like yes, like there's stuff to learn, but like if you can't, then like God, like there's no point spending a year writing a business plan, like to figure out that you're not good at problem solving.
That's true.
You know, if you're good at researching, that's not enough.
So I also know so you two have started this together, you're getting some sales probably from social media, most of it's coming in, and then we'll fast forward to a little bit. It sounds like at one point your business partner said, I don't want to do this anymore. So take me through that. What happened there?
We actually, so when we were working together, we got up to, at most, we made $22,000 a month.
Okay.
And so that was all on the back of this like Facebook competition, this model search, which I know probably ended up being quite common, but we were one of the first to do it that I saw. Because I got this idea watching, I was like, again, drinking wine. Like,
there's a common thread there,
there's a common thread. Everyone's like, just drink wine and start now. That's the two themes. I was like at home on my couch, drinking red wine, watching America's Next Top Model, and feeling really sorry for myself. And then I was like, I had this light bulb moment being like, wow, why don't we just do our own model search and then get our Facebook audience who are all in our demographic to go and to enter and then vote. Because this is when Facebook Fangate was on, so you had to engage.
What's Fangate? What's that for people that are listening that don't know what that was?
Yeah, you have to like a page in order to engage with it. You have to follow a page. And so all these girls enter themselves. They created Facebook events, pages, groups, and then shared it to the entire network to ask them to vote for them. And then girls in the network will enter themselves, which had this amazing ripple effect. That meant that we went from 3,000 followers to 20,000 followers in a month at no cost. And so that was my first hit of a growth hack. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane.
This is when you were still working with the other partner?
Still with a business partner.
Okay.
And so I realized what a growth hack is and how cool it is and what it means to go viral, and also the power of social media. I was like, oh my God, this Facebook thing is like, so because the thing is, I always was embarrassed of how much I'm on Facebook, and I was on Facebook so much at EY, which is probably why I was bad at my job. But all of a sudden, I was like, oh my God, this is like my competitive advantage. This is like what I'm good at, because I was on it so much that I knew it inside out. So anyway, so we started getting great sales then, and then instead of that continuing, our sales started to like tether off. And so and I think a lot of businesses get this, like they use up, they exhaust all the ideas that they have when they first start the business. And they've already spent the entire network. And then what can you do next? And the cost of marketing the cost of acquisition for your customers become bigger and bigger, and then you're just spending money to make money. And so most businesses plateau, whilst for us, our business started just like declining. Sales started declining to the point where it was $5,000 a month. And keep in mind, she still had her own business, which was getting more and more successful.
Traction, Yeah.
And so it got to a point where she was like, you know what, like it's not fair to my business, and also like it's, you know, she had to focus on her own business.
Yeah, that's fair.
we were doing $5,000 a month in December, which is so for us it's summer and Christmas trade, like it is your busy period.
Yeah.
And so that's 2 sales a day.
Okay, so and just for context, how much are you doing? You've already said the yearly revenue, but roughly that period now. So instead of 5K a month, what would it be roughly now?
Oh my God, don't make me.
Oh, okay.
Shit, I can't do the
So the accountant time. All right, anyway, 60 million divided by 12, that wouldn't be even. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Five?
Okay, yeah. Million.
Oh, sorry. And the thing is, like,
that's crazy.
That's 60 US, and so this is 5K Australian.
What's
so
that
like
in dollars?
3K.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't know that.
Either way, so you've gone from 5K to several million
Yeah.
by this point. So and she approached you and said, "I don't want to do this anymore."
Yeah.
And you had to buy her out.
And then I was like, "Okay, be cool, Jay." I'm like, "Yes, so exciting!" And I was like really excited, like really pumped that because I was getting kind of resentful. Like we're still really great friends, but like I was getting kind of resentful that I was doing all of the work. And because when we first, and that's the thing about business partnerships, like I'm not one to give advice because I haven't had a successful one.
Yeah.
But I guess I know what not to do. It's just like don't get too excited at the start, because a lot of people are like, I'd rather have half of $10 million than 100% of nothing.
Yeah.
And then people are too eager to give it away. And then people assume that like because of your friendship and your relationship that things would be like a certain way. And I think a lot of the times the problems actually start when you make money, not in the initial hustle stages. Because I was really happy to do all the work because she honestly taught me so much. Yeah. She had that connection as well to the supplier. Like she couldn't have done this without her. Like 100%. For sure couldn't have done it without her. But then
But she had other business, so you're doing this 100%.
100%. And then it got to a point where I'm like, I'm doing literally all the work.
Yeah.
You know, she had all these great ideas at the start, but now I'm like, I'm the one I've got ideas. You're not really doing that much. Yeah. And I started getting a bit resentful, I guess. Okay. And so I was pretty eager for her to buy her out. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, holy shit. Like that, my first business failed. This business is sinking fast. Yeah. If this fails, then all the failures will be attributed completely to me.
You're the common denominator.
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, and I do want to go into the buying out in a second, but just you brought that up right now, the common denominator. And that's just a fear, right? Yeah. And I don't want to sound, too personal development-y Tony Robbins right now. But, like whether you're in a business or starting a company, working in a job, in a relationship, like fear really is the thing that often stops you from doing stuff. It's like the opposite of action is being stuck in your tracks because of fear. So like, how do you approach that even today? Like now you've got more on the line, you've got bigger revenue, you've got a profile, you're in magazines and people know your net worth, like all this sort of stuff. Do you not feel that now? Like even more so? Do you not feel like that fear? Yeah.
Yeah.
And more like, how do you deal with it? Because it's something constantly, like whether you're doing really, really well or you're a 15-year-old kid, I feel like we all are always going to have that. So are there ways that you deal with it?
Well, I think that's why I'm really like trying, like I'm enjoying the process. Yeah. Because if everything failed right now, I'm so glad I spent the last 8 years doing this and not what I was doing. Yeah. And so worst case scenario, I'm literally back to square one. But at least like, I don't have to go back and do accounting. Yeah. So everything is...
that's the lesson here.
Still an upside,
Everyone should do accountancy for 1 year and then everything else will work itself out.
You just got to set that benchmark. And,
Okay.
Well, you know what's funny is like when I was actually in the front cover of an accounting magazine.
Wow.
And I remember going to my mom. I was like, I would have never been, if I stayed in accounting, there is no chance I would ever be on this cover.
Definitely not.
So
that's hilarious.
Ironic. Anyway.
So let's go back to buying out your partner and whatever you want to share in terms of numbers, and if we want to
$20,000.
Oh wow, okay. But the only reason I asked that is because someone listening to this is in a similar situation, right? Yeah. And they might have Googled right now how to buy out my business partner. Yeah.
I got really lucky that she wanted to leave.
And how do you usually do that? Like, do you know, is there like a general rule of thumb, like a multiple of revenue, or just how much you're willing to pay and how much, how did that work for you guys?
Oh, I was just like, name your price.
Really? Okay.
And then I was like, she probably said 25. I'm like, 20. She probably thought I was going to say 15, but I'm like, honestly, I just went like, it's fine. I'm just like.
Okay.
So God, I'm honestly the last person to give advice on it. I got
fair
so
enough.
lucky, but I think that kind of means like Showpo's last valuation was $40,000.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Well, that's okay. So it was probably, were you guys drinking wine again, and this was like just a casual conversation?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was like,
cool. So
very amicable.
Okay, great. All right. Well, that's interesting because I know, if you're venture funded, there's like a little bit more science to it. If your public company is just on paper your value, pretty much.
Yeah. We were making $5,000 a week.
So
like it got to a point where it's funny because like I remember when Fat Boy failed and I was like, oh, this is so devastating. I look back and it's like it's hardly even a business at the point where it failed.
Yeah.
And then looking at we were doing 5K. I'm like, like it's just like it wasn't. We were like break even. It wasn't really.
Yeah.
She didn't really need much.
Okay, cool. So anyway, so that worked out. You bought her out for $20K, which is, fair at the time, but obviously a great move for you. You got the full equity in the company. So let's fast forward from there because I know it sounds like from that point you made some changes.
Yeah.
And now it's just you making decisions. And it sounds like you put your shipping costs lower. You wanted to put more love into customer service. You wanted to do more paid advertising.
Oh, you did your research.
Yeah, and that's one thing I do is I do research. So, and tell me if these numbers are right. But you grew from 9K a month in sales.
5 to 9, yeah.
5 to 9 to 40K to 75 to 140K within only a few months.
Yeah.
So just to clarify again, that's 5 to 9 and then 140 within like 4 months.
Yeah.
So that's crazy growth.
Yeah.
So, tell me, like, what do you think was contributing to that at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I made this, like, when you want to make drastic business decisions, changes, you kind of probably should do one thing at a time that I could actually tell you, well,
what it was.
It's X, Y, Z, but mainly X, right? But I don't know because I was literally doing so many things at once. Yeah. But I guess the most important thing was the fact that, I mean, there was definitely like a fast decision making that had something to do with it, but mainly the fact that because I didn't have a business partner who, especially because she wasn't actively in the business, so I was, first of all, I didn't have to check things with her, but also, you kind of like, because when you have a business that's growing, I think you do something right, like that keeps growing, that grows the business. It's not as obvious when you do something wrong. So, and you have this like fear of failure. You don't want to make a mistake, and especially it's scary to make a mistake when there's other people
on the line as well.
Yeah, so
I get you.
I was like, I think because I was just doing it myself, I would just like, okay.
Here's an idea.
So for example, Google AdWords. This is still, I remember asking her, should we do AdWords? She's like, look, let's just start making money before we start spending more. And I couldn't be like, but I'm really confident in this Google thing is going to work.
Yeah.
So one of the things I started doing was doing AdWords. And I just like, and the thing is like chucking on $50, but playing around with I had no idea what I was doing. It's actually so much harder than Facebook ads, right?
Yeah.
And then like it did work, and then once it did work,
and you were doing this all yourself as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you're like, okay, throw more money on it. Like if something doesn't work, you react quickly. You only like have yourself to blame.
Yeah.
You only have to answer to yourself, and I think that actually allowed me to take more risks.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably ultimately like, and the thing about business is like you have to take risks, do things that people aren't doing, because otherwise, if you're doing things that people are doing, then
it's already saturated
doing it,
most of the time. Yeah. Do you remember at that time, and I don't know if you remember off the top of your head, but it's worth asking, like Google AdWords sounds like it was a great time to be doing it. Facebook ads, you just started running, and I think I remember hearing you say it was like 10 cents a click at the time, really early. Like you pretty much can't get that now, right? Because it's auction based, and more people are spending money on there. Were there a few things you did try and they just were massive failures? Like you mentioned the PR thing, it cost quite a lot of money.
We
didn't think it really worked out for you.
Do you have Clio?
Yeah.
It's like a Cosmo.
Okay. Magazine. Okay. Yeah.
I put this ad up, and it's like in the back, almost the classifieds. It was like $1,400, which, oh my God, it's so much money at the time.
Yeah.
And then I forgot to put a coupon code. I was like 20% off.
Oh my God.
No coupon code.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even measure how successful it was. So that was definitely just my mistake. But
and you designed that yourself, like on Photoshop or something?
Done. Yeah. Well, I forgot the freaking coupon code.
Yeah.
And so that also, but then there wasn't like an influx of traffic from it either.
Yeah.
From like something that I was spending so much on. Because $1,400, I know I could get a lot in Facebook ads at the time.
Yeah.
So I guess that didn't really work. What else? There's just a lot of things that you kind of sign up for. You just that sounds too sounds great. Like, you know, in theory, I remember we had this business where from like say a website like a where you buy tickets and like concert tickets, and at the end when you check out, you can like get these discounts. So we sign up for those. We spent $5,000 and made 3 sales. That, you know, it's just there's all these things. But you
need to try them out.
You need to try because you never know.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what works for one company doesn't work for another.
Yeah.
Also, what works for you now might not work for you later. So, for example, I remember when we did radio much later on.
Okay.
You know, it didn't really work. I think we tried to measure as best as possible, and it was probably a break-even exercise, which with hindsight, like having that, there was an X factor element of brand, which you have to weigh in, which at the time we didn't really value brand, which now I'm like, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
But even I think the difference between it now and then is a lot different because we're more recognizable. We have a bigger brand. You hear it on the radio, the impact of and there's things that we didn't measure back then, like what's the impact of that on your Facebook ads? It'll probably make it, you know, lower your cost of paid media.
Yeah.
You know,
because there's more recognition and cool. So it sounds like you tried a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe your accountancy maybe didn't come into play straight away, but I feel like more than accountancy, it's just like you seem like you're still a data-driven person.
Yeah.
And I've heard you talk about even your design team, like you guys use data to think about, you know, which designs are working well and, you know, looking at the response from people. So how important is that to your business now? Like, how do you guys think about data within running the business day to day?
Yeah, I mean, we're very data driven, but I think that there's still so much more we need to do. Like, I feel like, you know, I think I look at just like fashion businesses in our peers. We're probably
you don't want to say their names.
I don't want to say their names, but then I look at the other $60 million companies, and like, you know, I feel like we have so much room to grow. But yeah, I think there's always, there's just, oh God.
There's still 100 things you could be doing.
Yeah, there's always more things you can do. So, yeah.
Okay. And now, so one of the things that was really interesting I heard you talk about is growing beyond yourself. And this is something that's come up time and time again with even 2 days ago, I was talking about this with someone else about, you know, right at this point, you were still running this from your parents' garage, right? It's just you pretty much. Maybe your mum helped you once in a while write some notes, I think. But you really got to a point where you were the business, right? And if you had a sick day or you had to go on holiday or to Ultra Music Festival, which happened, then like it sounds like it wouldn't really run without you. So that is a difference between working in a business and on a business, right? Absolutely. So and that's, I think, a great lesson for everyone listening. And, you know, sometimes you are the business, right? Like right now I'm doing consultancy for some people and I am the business. Like I need to be there physically and I need to share my ideas with people. But
if you weren't here, I'd just be talking to myself.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, at one point you've built a scalable business by this point. You've got the infrastructure, you've got the website and the marketing channels working. But there were certain things you were doing, customer service, packing stuff up. So how did you think about having to, you know, go beyond yourself, and how did that work out?
I think the initial stage is like, so in March, I guess this is the month we were doing 70K a month. For March, I booked this trip to go to the Ultra Music Festival when the business wasn't going well. And I think it was a bit of it's just completely reckless when you like, one, have no money.
Yeah.
And then also when you don't, and your business, like you've started a business, you can't just go on holidays.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a bratish move. I was just like fed up. I'm like, I'm going to Ultra with my friends. And then, because we weren't even making that much money. Yeah. It was like 1 or 2 orders a day. I'm like, my business partner could do that. I'm like, I'm going on holidays. Yeah. But then she left the business, and then business started taking off. Okay. And I was like, I went to my friends, like, I'm just no way.
Yeah,
I'm
you
going
need to stay
Ultra.
home for this, yeah.
And then she and my friend like twisted my arm. I have a very like
peer pressure.
I succumbed to peer pressure, and I was like, all right, screw it, I'm going. Okay. And then so I realized I needed to hire someone to work on an online store and then put in like, you know, the systems and processes, which at the time I was like, oh, so boring.
Yeah.
Also, like, it's not something that's making you think of it like it's not something that's making you money.
Yeah.
There's other things you need to do. You need to do customer service. You need to go buy more products. You need to do photo shoots, social media posts. So like writing out like a manual just seems so tedious.
Feels like that would be more work than actually just doing it yourself.
Exactly. But the holiday made me do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jane, you're gonna go on holiday, so you have to do this. And so this girl, sorry, the reason I had some money is we actually had one of our stores. At one point, we had 3 stores. 2 of them were like
physical
stores. But one of them, which is literally 3 racks of clothes, 4-meter racks in total of clothes in the CBD, like the Sydney City Westfield, at the bottom level, like bottom level.
Yeah.
In the middle kiosk, so not even a proper store, was like a cash cow. So that's how I had money, and that's how I had some girls working there. I got the girl who I thought was the most clued on to come and work in my parents' garage.
Wow.
So she'd have to go through the house, go to the garage, and then she'll like packed orders for me, did customer service. And then so
what, she's the first employee then?
Yeah.
Technically speaking.
Yeah. And with online,
With online, okay.
And then so when I came back, it was really a really, I guess, powerful lesson in that, like, yes, she's made mistakes, but the business didn't break. And then I can continue keeping her on. And then now finally, like you said, I could work on the business and not in the business.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I realized I was able to actually start scaling up the business.
Yeah. And so going beyond just her, like you've come back and things look like they haven't broken too much.
Yeah, and so I hired my first. So Alex is our general manager.
Yeah.
And she's been with me for like 6 years. So she's amazing in that she's like, we're like yin and yang. Like she is very process driven. I'm like, let's do this, let's do that, and she's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Let's think this through. You know, she's. And so she's fantastic, and so she's kind of helped me like really laid out. We've been able to like building out the infrastructure for growth.
Yeah.
And so that our growth has always been sustainable. And then I think and from her, since her and some other amazing hires that we've had, these people, I mean, I feel like they've just really shaped me as a person. Personally and as a business person. You know, they say you're the product of the 5 people you're surrounded by.
Yeah.
And so they're just like, they're the people that have told me, like, Jane, like, because I remember the moment when I was like, I feel guilty not doing work. And like, Jane, like, your team doesn't need you to do work.
Yeah.
Like, to, you know, they need you as a leader.
Yeah.
And then they lead you for like direction, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so just like, I feel like they've really shaped how I've developed.
And you've had to evolve what you're working on, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. And so how does it look today? Like, what are you focused on day to day versus, you don't have to go through the whole team, but just like, what's your day?
Wake up and then
yeah.
How long you got? No. Like, I think I'm still like definitely still trapped in like having an amazing assistant that does all my emails.
Yeah.
But I'm still in this trap of like default go check my emails, which I want to get out of, but I can't. Maybe it'll be a New Year's resolution. But then like
it's almost February.
I know. And then I know it's the worst part is like I'm overseas. I have my out of office on. I should not answer my emails, but now I'm like getting all the emails before she gets them. Like, it's stupid.
Oh, because of the time difference.
Yeah. It's like, you know, everyone goes scroll on Facebook or Instagram. I scroll my inbox.
That's funny.
It's so stupid. And then so I think this is more what I want to do than where I am necessarily. But I want to focus more on all the things that I guess you can't get someone else to do.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, strategy, content. We have great people that work in content, but it's something that like every person brings in something unique, and it's something I'm genuinely interested in. Social media, again, something I just enjoy.
Yeah.
And then I guess the whole PR side of things, because one of our other points of difference is that we, with myself as the face of the business, also with a lot of other people in the business are very, we're very open and candid about the business. And I think that's why people trust us.
Yeah.
So just doing a little PR stuff, which is hard to get someone else to
do,
I guess.
And it sounds like I don't know if this is still the case, but you're still working a fairly normal work week.
Yeah.
Like, do you think you work like a 40-hour work week, like which is 9 to 5, 9 to 6, or are you always working in the evenings? Like, how does it work for you?
Yeah, it gets a bit blurred, I guess, because like
You're
sometimes
always
I'm
on,
like, I'm like. Sometimes I'm like on my phone and people are like, oh, get off your mind. I'm working. And like, you're on Instagram. That is work.
Yeah, okay.
So
it feels like maybe you just integrated it a bit more.
Yeah. And so like some people think like I work long hours. I mean, sometimes I'll be at a networking event till 11, but like that's my choice to stay that late. I mean, it is, these networking events when you're tired and you can't be bothered does feel like work, but I'm frequently...
Just having fun.
So it doesn't feel like work. So it's like, how do you really say what your hours are?
Yeah.
And then on weekends, I think I'm very good at, like, on Sundays, I just binge watch Netflix, like, and so I do, like, switch off.
Okay.
But I think I just genuinely, like, I'm really lucky that I like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So only recent, like, in last June, we had a CFO start, so I've finally been able to fully offload the accounting. Like, you never fully offload. You got to be across numbers, but so much of it.
Yeah.
So now, like, because there was a point last year, I remember, like, say this time last year, I was like, wow, I'm so lucky that I'm doing all this fun content stuff, because if anyone was to ask what would be your ideal job, I would like to be a producer and writer for, like a Saturday Night Live or Kimmel or Fallon, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm kind of doing, I mean, no, not to that quality, but like that, I'm kind of doing that kind of stuff.
I get you.
How amazing. And so we
interesting.
We started talking when we started the Showpo YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So, and I remember I was umming and ahhing about that, but it's such an exciting development for us because I genuinely love it.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, but so contradictory that one thing I was trying to get out of, which was accounting, I'm still doing. I was like, how the hell am I in this situation?
You're doing the stuff you really loved and hated at the same time. Yeah. So that you brought up YouTube, and well, first of all, thanks for sharing all of that. I think we went into a lot of detail, more than you've probably done in previous one, which is great. But I think one thing that everyone listening to this can definitely learn from is you guys have done an incredible job on social media. Even if you're an American, a British person, and you haven't heard of Showpo, you've built an amazingly engaged audience, right? Of 1.5, 1.6 million people on Instagram, 1 point something on Facebook.
Yeah.
So, it sounds like a lot of that happened early on, but you haven't stopped. And the reason I bring that up, talking about how it worked in the past, is because sometimes what happened worked 8 years ago doesn't work today, right?
Yeah.
Like the algorithm changed, organic reach has changed.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll frame it as the question around, if you were starting from today, like if you were starting from scratch, how would you really try to build an audience on those platforms?
I mean, I think it's still like a really exciting time to start a business, and because there's a growth in I guess like micro brands are like a huge growing sector, and just I think with Instagram, especially now Facebook's bought out Instagram, there's a lot more, like, there's shoppable
content,
posts.
yeah.
And so there's a lot of, like, you can do hyper targeted marketing, and you can really like grow niche markets. So if you were to start, I think the first thing you would do is have a really more important than ever is to have a niche product.
Yeah.
And so your product probably needs to be more unique and stand out in the market.
Yeah.
Because it's just so easy for people to copy otherwise.
Yeah.
So if you were to start a Showpo now, and the thing is, now we have unique products because we have like more than 10 people in our design and product team.
Yeah.
But if it was just me and I don't design, and you're just retailing, you would either need to be doing something differently, like operationally, which is probably harder, and just really get investors and just have the money to
pump it out.
pump out a big business. Or otherwise I think it'd be really hard to just to try and like start a Showpo now, because
the market's changed.
The market's changed.
Yeah.
But if you have this unique product, I think that's when you can really use Instagram, because there's still so much. There is still organic traffic. I don't know how long it's going to last, but there's organic traffic and growth on Instagram.
Yeah.
And if you have an amazingly Instagrammable product, I think that's
great.
That's where you would be ideal. And I think Facebook is still really good if you have, in terms of like, it's still your cheapest form of like direct digital digital marketing. So back in 2016, there was like, I was doing like some interview, 2015, doing the interview, and I just casually said Facebook is dead, which then became the headline of that article. And it's like, Jane Lou says Facebook is dead. And then a year later, Facebook kind of like, there was a resuscitation of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And so partly because, you know, what we learned is like Facebook organic is dead, but Facebook organic mixed with a really good, supplemented with a really good paid strategy is
the amplification of it.
It's still like amazing. And so, and also for us, because we started a YouTube channel mainly as a diversification away from Facebook, because we saw when the Facebook algorithm changed, and then we were like, we can't be reliant on that one platform. And then when Facebook bought Instagram, we're like, oh shit, you know, we need to diversify. But then because we started YouTube, we started doing all this video content, which is what's really working on Facebook and now on Instagram. So, you know, taking all that together, producing unique content in video form, supplemented with a great, with a really well done paid strategy, we still are making Facebook work. We were actually the most engaged brand, had the highest engagement out of any brands in Australia last year.
Wow.
And so there's still so much you can do with that. And, you know, any small business it's all a great way to advertise.
That's a great way to, and because I was thinking about this last night. So when you started 2010, if you told me in 2010 you were starting, that already felt like, you know, like you said, ASOS was around.
Feel late,
And I mean, I feel like you can still make something happen, but to get to the scale you have now, you know, that's a really tough thing to do. And I don't know enough about the Australian market, but maybe that plays a part of it. Maybe ASOS wasn't as big there, I don't know, or an equivalent of ASOS. But clearly, the punchline of it all to me when I thought about it last night was, okay, no, you've just really executed incredibly well. And like you can say like the timing was there, of course, those things are out of your control, but like, you're adjusting and you're an optimist. Like I'm
such an optimist. Yeah,
I think that's a big thing, because if you think like today, other people are complaining about the algorithm change and saying my organic reach, including me sometimes with this podcast, right?
Like I win all the time.
Yeah. But like, but I know that, you know, there are billions of people still on there. It's the best way you can, you know, target people is through, you know, Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube and the Google stack. So, you know, that's why we're recording this. And if you're listening on audio, we're now recording Creator Lab in 4K video for YouTube, because we want to be able to use this full long form audio, but I also want to cut it up and put on 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute clips on each native platform.
Yes.
And that's just something I haven't had time until recently, now that I'm working on it more solidly. So that's really helpful. So thanks for sharing that. That's a really great insight.
It'd be great as like those Facebook videos with like text with specific things.
Yeah, that's like, kind of what I'm doing. Yeah. Cool. That's great. Well, we'll do one for this, and I'll make sure I share it with you. So, just moving on. So this has been really, I know we've moved around a bit, but that's kind of the whole point of this. So thanks for sharing your insights on the social media side. Are there, you know, I did ask the question about social media forward looking from today, but it still would be interesting to know what has worked previously for you. You mentioned the competition. Right, and you know, have you done any other versions of a competition or giveaways? You know, are there any learnings for people listening to this that have worked really well for you guys there?
I mean, nothing's worked. Like we grew by 7 times
that
followership, so nothing's worked like that. I guess. I mean, there was a point where we were doing like competitions with like accounts with big following.
Yeah,
I remember we grew by 50,000 Instagram followers in a month.
Wow.
Which, I mean, we just don't have that anymore. So I think it's just about understanding, like, ultimately how the algorithm works.
Yeah.
Which is becoming harder and harder. Because I think there was a point. I remember the point where we had 300,000 followers and we just were not growing. And then once we kind of cracked that code, we kind of shot up to 1 million, and then the growth slowed down again.
Okay.
So I think it's just all about, you know, I say this, I'm like, God, why am I not spending more time trying to crack this code again?
Yeah.
Because you get carried away with other business things, I guess.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think, you know, the Facebook engines, the Instagram is getting smarter and smarter.
Yeah.
But...
And they want you to spend money to amplify,
right,
eventually, right? So that doesn't always help.
But I think it's just ultimately like, go and look at what's working, for what's on your explore page, what's trending. Like,
What about, this is quite a tactical question, but I think people can gain from it. On Instagram specifically, you know, the hashtags.
Yeah.
Like, how important are they to you guys when you're posting the
we
organic content?
should be doing hashtags. We just haven't, like...
You don't always do it.
We've stupidly been so understaffed.
Really?
Because
Okay.
I'm just like, oh, I can do it myself.
Yeah.
See, this is like...
Old habits die.
The best thing is we just got ahead of social, like, last week. And now I'm like, oh my God, why didn't we get her sooner?
Yeah.
So now I'm like, what's really exciting is, like, now even with social media, I'm like, okay... I can just throw her ideas rather than do things myself. Like, I was still doing social media reporting.
Oh, wow.
Which takes, you know, like, so... God, what was I thinking? Like, not hiring her sooner. Anyway.
So, all right, cool. So that's really helpful on the YouTube, on the Instagram and Facebook front. We first got connected about YouTube specifically. So I know it is a different beast, right? So when I worked at Google and YouTube, we would go through with brands like yourself. I worked with a couple of your European equivalents on their YouTube strategy, and it was really difficult to crack, especially in the beginning, because a lot of the brands we worked with were quite short-sighted, I think, in my opinion. And it just was, here's YouTube, here's Facebook, here's Instagram, and here's Pinterest. And it is YouTube, in my opinion, especially now that I don't work there, I can say this. I think it's a lot harder to make content for. Like Instagram is generally shorter, you know, Facebook is generally shorter. YouTube, people are watching, but that's also an opportunity because people are watching, you know, literally 2-hour interviews on YouTube, and they're watching 20-minute documentaries on there. So how have you guys thought about the difference in your kind of content mix with YouTube specifically? Because that might be useful for people to think about as well.
Yeah, I mean, okay, the thing about YouTube, I think for someone who's starting their own brand or with a business that wants to look into YouTube, I think the first thing is you need to get over the fact that influencers will always have more engagement than you.
Yeah.
I think people complain about it. I've complained about it. It's just really frustrating because you're making these high production videos and you think about all the work, like you're you're scripting, like you're like prepping and editing and all that. And then you got these influencers who just like jump on. They go pull down the piece of clothes. It's not even steamed. They're not even wearing it. They're just holding it. And it's just like really, I think it can be kind of demotivating to like look at that. You just need to get over it because what they have is you got to think about all the influencers that don't make it. The ones that do, there's something, they have an X factor. They've resonated with their audience. You also you got to think about all the people that don't make it. Like they've done something right and they get their audience. So I think so once you get over that, I think it makes it a lot easier to start working on your own shit. I think for us, we're still kind of figuring it out because we've even seen like our engagement has dropped, to be honest. And for us now, it's a lot more, again, like Facebook, it's like you have a paid strategy that's that really kind of like jumpstarts your like organic content. Yeah. And it's a lot more, and can be a hit and miss, but ultimately I think we just make content that we think is value, adding value to our customers. Yeah. Because sometimes you look at a video and it hasn't done well and you're like, well, who's going to watch that?
Yeah. Have you guys thought about, this is a bit of a throwback for me, but at YouTube we used to use these terms Hero, Hub, Help. Right, and it was a kind of a framework. I don't know if they still use the same framework, but if you think of Hero as this big, you know, equivalent of a Super Bowl commercial, right? Like these big flashy things,
like
Red Bull,
aspirational.
Exactly, like these crazy jumping out of a plane moments, right? Or like you guys are having awards, or you're at, you know, something that isn't happening every day. The Hub content was about coming back every week, and like you're telling people, come back on a Wednesday. We're gonna have, you know, the way you do with your lifestyle stuff with the Lazy CEO. And then Help, I don't love that term, but
adding value.
Yeah,
tutorials.
Well, it was specifically for questions. So a lot of people don't know that YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world after Google. So if someone's typing in onto Google how to wear denim jacket with this skirt, like you guys could potentially, maybe you're already doing this, but just like having the most searched for terms, which you could probably get by using Google Trends, or if you've got a Google team that can help you with that. Yeah. And that's something I'm trying to do with this actually, because I know people are searching online how to come up with a business idea, how to find a supplier, all these, how to come up with a brand name, etc. And one, because, you know, I want people to listen to this, but really that's how you add value. People are already telling you what they want.
Absolutely. So, and people still think like the answers are right there for you.
Yeah.
Like what give the people what they want. And I think so many times people start businesses and do things, and it's like, well, don't try and tell the market and your customers what to do. Like, don't dictate.
They're already telling you.
They're telling you. And so it's really cool. I met this girl who had her own business, and like you hear about, like, we're here looking at these business books, and you're like, you know, I'm not a big reader, but I met this girl who's like, now she started a business last year that's already at $4 million in sales. And but her first business, how she got into it, she was telling me how she...
Who's this, sorry, if you're allowed
just
to
like
say?
her business is... Oh, my God. What's her business called?
Oh, sorry, if you...
Oh, my God. I've just had
oh, don't worry about it.
They sell, like, sustainable containers, and, like, it's they're at the front of that trend. It's really cool.
Great.
It's out of Byron Bay. Seed and Sprout.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah.
And so her first business, she read the Tim Ferriss book.
Yeah, for our work week.
For our work week. And she did it. She went and just searched, and she found that people wanted, like, these feather things in their hair.
Yeah.
And then she found that the search terms was, like, so big, and there's no one to fulfill that term. And she made $120,000 in her first month.
It's crazy.
It's, like, crazy. But she literally read it, like, you read these things, and she just, like, went and did it. And I find that so, like, I found that, like, inspirational.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the crazy thing. If going back to your point earlier about our parents didn't have this available to them. They didn't have Google Trends and Google Keyword Tool and Amazon Tool and whatever the Facebook one is. Like, you can see a lot of stuff by this point. It doesn't mean it tells you all the answers, but there's a lot of data to base it on. And ultimately, your intuition and your qualitative ability to see what's going on is important too. But just that I'm actually in the process of looking at a few physical products as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm using a bunch of these tools and saying, like, okay, someone's looking for this, and now is there, like, the other day, I'll just give a stupid example, and maybe someone will watch this and go and create it, but like, I'm started swimming again recently, and I used to listen to this waterproof iPod, and who uses an iPod anymore, right? Like, you use your iPhone and you use Spotify and you use podcast app. And like, I was like, oh, I just want to put my phone by the pool. This is real first world problems. But so I just want to be able to play it in the water. And I could go and listen to a podcast for an hour, and it's like the best thing in the world. And I was like, I can't really find it. So I was just like, oh, how can I just make this for myself? Like, how hard would it be? So that was literally last week. So maybe by this time this comes out, someone might have done it. But it's really, there's 100 ideas like that, because you're just taking something that exists, but you're improving it. And you can put your own spin on it. You can change the brand, you can change the design. So I think there's a lot of opportunity still out there.
Yeah, I mean, I just heard about this business. I know it's already big in the US, but I just heard about it from this trip. Untuck It, like the men's shirts that look good.
Oh, yeah, I saw the ad for them. Yeah.
Like, that's cool.
That is cool, yeah. So I know you're going to have to go to your event soon. So I do want to start to wrap up. But this has been really incredible. Like, you've shared so much. One last thing I did want to ask is, again, a little bit of a tactical question, but I'd love to get your opinion on the way you guys are posting on Instagram and Facebook specifically. How often are you posting in a day versus a week? You know, how do you guys think of that optimally?
I think I think you just go with a number.
Yeah.
That you feel like it's right.
Yeah.
I wrote a blog about this because I did all this research, and then because I was trying to reevaluate whether we're posting the right number.
Yeah.
And in a nutshell, like, there's no right answer, because like, an influencer might post it once a week. Yeah. But then you've got, like, other businesses doing like 15, 20. We're doing 10 a day.
10 a day, okay.
Probably, I think 12 on Facebook. But you just, ultimately, you want to post as much as possible, I think, without spamming your audience.
And if it's good content.
If it's good content. You don't want too much repetition.
Yeah.
I guess it's like, you got to get... You look at how much could you do max, like, at most, without pissing off your audience, and then how much could you actually generate in content. Like,
because the content, you have to make the content as well.
Yeah, there's no point having there's no point. So sorry, one good post with like 10,000 likes. Yeah, it's better than like 2 good posts at 6,000. I would think, because that one, I don't know.
All right, I get you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want to... Because the more viral a post is, the more it's likely to reach a new audience.
Okay, because it's like there's like a compounding effect or something like that. Okay. Great. I know that was very tactical, that part, but I think often we hear these high-level things about Instagram's great, social's great, but like we don't always get to hear, you know, like amplification, putting a little paid media behind it, using the hashtags, put 10 posts a day. Like, those are all actionable things someone listening to this can hopefully apply to their business or their project.
I think it's all about, like, it's better, like, you're like, oh crap, what is she's doing 10 posts a day. Just like at least if you're doing one post, it's better than nothing. One post a week is still like my personal Instagram. It's like I try and do one a week, but I don't even get there. But don't let that be demotivating. Just go do as much as you can. And then once you can free up other resources, then you can work and improve on it. It's just like,
got to take the step.
Better to do something than nothing.
Yeah, completely. Great. Well, the last thing I did want to just touch on, I mentioned a bit earlier, is you've really done a great job of working smart, not just hard. And I say not just because hopefully you're still working hard as well. But you know, I'm a big fan of, you know, when I look at a task or a problem, I say, you know, the 80-20 rule of 80% of the output is normally 20% of the input. So like, what are the few tasks that are going to give me the most impact? And so it feels like, you know, the way you've managed to balance your life, and I see you traveling and doing this fun stuff, you've had to focus, and like you've had to say, even if you don't get it perfectly right every day. So are there a few things that you've been able to do to really, you know, remind yourself to like focus, and like every day, like you're like, okay, what are the things I'm going to focus on today? I'm just curious how you think about focusing your work every day.
Honestly, like, I mean, I'm not great. Like, I think sometimes I get more satisfaction of doing something 100% and perfectly, but you just have to like remind yourself, like, that's not the best thing to do, I guess. And sometimes I do fall into the trap of spending too long on something. And so I'm a big list maker. And then the thing is, I constantly make change where I'm making my list.
I do
sometimes,
the same.
Right? Sometimes
like
I'm like,
notes app, Evernote,
notes,
and then handwritten.
Like a Google Drive, like Google spreadsheet, Google Notes. And then sometimes, and I'll categorize everything. I try to put everything to sprints. That was too much. I was like crazy. And then also sometimes I put everything into my calendar as well. And then you just move things when you can't.
I do that as well.
But
what works generally best for you?
No, I honestly, I'm sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm restarting. Sometimes I almost think having a new list system sometimes gets you excited. And that's okay. So I just constantly.
What about if I change the question and say you're in your team, the ops person who you said is like really organized and gets things done? Like, is there something that you've seen them do?
She writes lists in her notebook.
Okay, all right.
She physically writes these lists.
I feel like I didn't do it for so long. I used to do it when at school and stuff. And then for ages, I started using like Todoist and Google Tasks and all these apps. But when it's on your phone or the computer, it just gets lost with like everything else. So I've started, again, this is very tactical, but just like writing it down physically does work for me right now. And the
satisfaction
of crossing it out. But anyway, so
the only reason I like to write things down, because when I'm having meetings and they're boring, that's when you actually, or like you're at a conference, God, you think of all these great ideas,
so it looks
but you
like
can't go
on
your phone. So you're like, tell me more, and you're like
funny.
doing your own thing.
All right, cool. Well, that is definitely, you know, the last thing I'd love to just close out on is, you know, you've talked about these big goals. You already hit crazy milestones with crazy revenue and 100+ people in your team. You know, if we had came back here in 10 years' time, or, you know, way into the future, and we said, hey, it's been a great 10 years, you know, like, is there, you know, beyond just Showpo, like, is there a greater thing beyond that you have aspirations to do? Not that there's nothing great about Showpo, you're already doing something amazing. But just like, I'm curious to think beyond what you're doing day to day, is there like anything else that you're really focused on in the longer term?
Oh God, probably not. No, I think I'm doing like, I have a business group called Like-Minded Bitches Drinking Wine.
Yeah, that's the best name.
So we're just like, what are we? Well, just a bunch of like-minded bitches that like drinking wine. So I mean, if anyone wants to hop on Facebook, we've got almost 100,000 members.
Wow.
But the group is really well run because we have these amazing moderators that keep the group flowing. And what's great is people jump on, and then you can just get advice from women all over the world helping each other out. So it's a really awesome group for that. And I think that's kind of like a part of what I really like about what I'm doing. Like, I'm, you know, it's my way of kind of giving back to the startup community. And that's why I like to write, you know, blog articles and, you know, share what I've learned, because I think like ultimately, even if, so for example, like there's other business people that may have like, you know, even if they have failed, if they've inspired me, like, and helped me, you know, to get to where I am, like they've, you know, I think that's...
They've added a lot of value, and you want to do it for other people where you can, right?
And so there's a lot of things, and I think I ultimately do need, because Showpo is like, I guess, a doorway into being able to achieve more things. So like there's a lot of things that we want to do in like, I guess, I don't want to say, there's some things we're working on, but just like, these things, you can't declare you're doing it until you're really doing it well.
Fair.
But there's a lot of things that we want to do and just really make a positive impact on the world that, and that's why, like, if everything fell apart, like, I'm like, well, it doesn't matter because, like, we've made this positive impact. We've had this positive footprint. And so there's, and I think it's all about the journey. That's so cliched. Painful for me to say, but it's about the journey, not the destination. And so I'm just really enjoying what I'm doing. Like,
that's
great. I wouldn't be like, I'd be in the office right now. I'm not here chatting to you. Reaching out to other people. I don't know. Like, it's cool. Like, I just want to keep doing this.
Spreading the love.
Having fun. Like, having so much fun. So.
Yeah, it looks like you guys are having a great time in the office. If you just go, if you're listening to this, just go on YouTube and type in Showpo.
We have rosé on tap.
Yeah. Like all the time.
And a basketball
not just on Fridays.
In our warehouse.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Definitely if I'm in Australia. Where is it in Australia?
In the CBD.
Oh, okay. In Sydney?
In the city, yeah.
Okay, cool. If I'm ever there, I definitely would love to come check it out.
Come check it
out. Well, thank you so much. I know this has probably been, I don't know how long we've been recording, but it's been really great. And we've gone into so many cool, like high level things, but tactical as well, and hopefully useful for people. So if you're listening to this and you like certain things, please reach out to us. You can email, or I'm on social at Creator Lab FM, and you're at the Lazy CEO. So just shout us on there. And I just love your feedback. If you guys are enjoying the longer form podcast, feel free to send an email. I'm just Bilal at creatorlab.fm as well. I love to hear from you guys.
My emails, that was too long.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
But thanks again for being on here. This has been really fun.
Thanks
I'm glad we got to finally meet in person and do this. So thank you.
Yeah, great timing. This is awesome.
Yeah, cheers.